Want the secret to the silkiest lemon pasta sauce with extra protein? We're adding cottage cheese that no one will ever detect, served over seared zucchini, onion, spinach, and protein pasta with optional chicken. Hello, my name is Nicole Bonilla, and if you love healthier recipes to your favorite foods that taste amazing, then you are in the right place. Now, to make this really easy pasta, we're going to start by cooking our pasta. And you can use any variety that you like. There's some really great protein pastas that are out now that you could use, and you could also use gluten-free if that's what you need. So I'm just going to take 2 cups of pasta, and then I have a pot of boiling water behind me, and I added about 2 teaspoons of salt to it. So I'll go ahead and throw these in and let these cook. Now we're going to prep our vegetables before we saute them. So I've just taken 1 green zucchini as well as 1 yellow zucchini or yellow squash, and then I just chop them up into these larger chunky pieces. But you can chop them as large or small as you like, and you could use all green zucchini or all yellow or whatever your preference. And then I've also chopped up 1/4 of a white onion, but you could use any onion that you like. And then I have a few cups of spinach leaves ready. And then I also juiced and zested a lemon. And then I minced up 3 cloves of garlic. So we're ready to saute our vegetables. So I'm going to use my deep hex-clad hybrid pan because it gives the best of non-stick, cast iron, and stainless steel. And I have included a link in the description below if you'd like to check it out. Now you're welcome to jot down these ingredients as we go along, or you can click on the link that's in the video description below. And that will take you to the full recipe with all the details, including nutrition facts, ingredients and substitutions, and frequently asked questions. So I'm going to start by adding about 2 tablespoons of some light olive oil to my hot pan. And then I will carefully add in our vegetables. So I'm adding all the zucchini as well as the white onion. And we'll season with a little bit of salt. Give those a good stir. And we want to keep these on a medium-high heat because we want these zucchini to get some color on them, because that's going to give them the most flavor and avoid that kind of mushy texture. So because I left my chunks a little bit larger, I will need to stir these frequently to make sure they don't get overcooked on any of the sides. So it's been about 5 minutes. You can see that they're starting to get some color on them, and some of them are cooked a little bit more well done than others. So I'm going to kind of push the ones that are more well cooked to the outside, and then I'll push some of those that don't quite have enough color on them yet to the center to make sure they get nice and flavorful. So I'm going to start taking these out and just transfer them to a plate. Now, if you could use healthy inspiration on a regular basis, I invite you to join my email list. All you have to do is click on the link in the video description below, and that is the best way for us to stay connected, and I can keep sending you delicious inspiration. And now that our zucchini are all cooked, I'm going to go ahead and pull these out of the pan, and then I'll add just a little bit more of our oil, and then we're going to add 2 big handfuls of spinach. And I like to do this after the vegetables because I don't want the spinach to get overcooked. So we can just stir this around because these are only going to take maybe a minute to wilt down, because we want them to stay nice and green and still have a little bit of body to them. So I will come in and season with a little bit more salt. All right, well, now that those are nice and wilted, we'll go ahead and take these out of our pan so they don't continue cooking. And I'll just place them right on top of our vegetables. And then we'll just let these hang out for a minute while we make our sauce. And our pasta is done cooking, so I'm just going to take this over to my sink and drain it in a colander. And then to keep the pasta from sticking before we have a chance to put the dish all together, I'm just going to go ahead and drizzle in about a tablespoon of some light olive oil. Give that a quick stir. And then we'll just put on the lid and let this hang out until we're done. And then to make this really easy and delicious lemon sauce that doesn't require a flour roux, we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of butter. And I'm just using my small saucepan over medium heat. So we'll just drop in our butter, and then we'll stir that around a minute so it can melt. And then we're going to add in our 3 cloves of minced garlic and 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning. And then we'll give those a quick stir. And then we're just going to let this go for about a minute to soften those spices and allow the garlic to bloom. And you'll be able to smell exactly when that happens. I'm going to go ahead and pour in our 1 cup of milk, but I'm going to hold out about, a couple tablespoons. And you can use any milk that you like, including almond milk. And then to our jar of milk, I'm going to add our 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And then we'll just whisk this together with a fork until it's dissolved. And then we can pour this in with our sauce. And we're also going to add 1 tablespoon of our lemon zest, and that can start releasing all its delicious lemon oil. And then we'll just whisk this together lightly. And then we're just gonna leave our heat on medium and let this come to a low simmer for a couple of minutes. And that's just gonna help thicken up the sauce just a bit. Now the secret to camouflaging our cottage cheese is to blend it smooth. So I'm just gonna add it to my blender cup. But you could also use a food processor or a small food chopper. And then I'm just gonna add about 1 tablespoon of milk just to help it blend a little easier. Now I'll screw on the lid, take it over to the base, and be right back. And then here's our cottage cheese blended smooth. It only took less than a minute. So now that the sauce has had a chance to thicken just a little bit, we want to add our cheese. So I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. And it works best to buy the block of cheese and then shred it yourself because it's gonna melt down a lot smoother because the cheese hasn't been coated with cellulose that keeps those little strands from sticking together. Now we're not trying to cook it any further, we just wanna melt down the cheese. Well, now that that cheese is all melted, we can go ahead and turn off our heat. Now the key to adding the cottage cheese to your sauce and it not curdling or breaking on you is to add the cottage cheese after the heat has been turned off because it's that simmer or boil that heats up the cottage cheese that causes that separation. So I'm gonna remove my pan from my heat and then I'll just pour in the cottage cheese mixture and then we'll just gently stir this all together until it's well blended. And as you can see, it's becoming this gorgeous, thick and creamy lemon sauce. So now we can bring everything back together with our pasta. I'm just gonna add that back into my deep hex clad pan. And then we can pour in our sauce. And then we'll give that a good stir. Now it may look like you have a lot of sauce, but keep in mind this still has to go over your vegetables as well as your protein. And that pasta is gonna soak up some of that sauce as they sit together, which I think makes it taste even better. And then we can add in our sauteed vegetables. And I'm just gonna kind of gently stir those around because I love to see those vegetables up on top of the pasta. And these colors are gorgeous. And then to add even more protein and take this dish over the top, I have some of my pan-seared lemon chicken breast. And I cooked this up just before I started making the pasta, so it has had plenty of time to rest and get super juicy. So now it is ready to dish up, which looks so rich and creamy, but shh, we won't tell anyone about our secret ingredient. That is delicious. As soon as you bite in, you get this amazing bite that's just tangy and lemony and a little bit sweet from the natural sweetness of the zucchini. And then the creaminess coming in from that cottage cheese as well as that Parmesan cheese is so good. And then adding the lemon chicken just takes it to another level. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today in my kitchen. I've included the link to the full recipe and it's in the video description below. And that will take you to my website, gentletommie.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I cannot wait to have you join me again in my kitchen.